Hello everyone, we're here another month to talk about a Power BI desktop update. This is the February 2016 update and we have lots and lots of new features across new report authoring capabilities, new data modeling capabilities, lots of new data connectivity functionality as well. In fact, we have so many new features in this desktop release that it is so hot and my machine is soon going to go on fire, as you can see. So now let's actually go and dig deeper into the features. The first group of features this month is about report authoring capabilities. The first feature this month is something that has been long requested by many of you, is the ability to see the data that's behind the visual and also being able to export that data to a CSV file. Let's go and take a look at this feature. I'm going to switch to an existing report and we can select this bar chart visual. We can go into focus mode by clicking this little icon in the top right corner. And now, while you are in focus mode, you notice this new icon on the top right that says See Data. When you click this button, you're going to see the view split between the bar chart and the actual table that has the data behind the visual. This is basically for each of the values in the axis that we're showing here, the actual value for the measure. And then we can also do a few more things in this view. We can switch this to a vertical layout just so that it looks better. In some cases, depending on the data you have, you'll want to have this different aspect ratio. And the other thing that you can do from here is go into the ... and select the export data option. This will basically allow you to create a CSV file that will contain the data that we just see in this table. It would match this content. So pretty valuable, pretty long requested feature from many of you. We hope you enjoy it. We'll do more improvements along this direction with exporting data, not just for the data behind the visual, but the actual data in the entire table in the data model. That will be coming in a few months, so stay tuned and please continue sending us feedback about this capability. The second new feature this month is a set of improvements to map visualizations. So basically what we're doing is simplifying the way that maps work. And before, it used to be that you had to provide a location field, which was a text field with the actual location display text or name of the street or the city, and also the latitude and longitude for that specific data point. Now we've actually simplified this so that it no longer requires you to provide the location field. So just with latitude and longitude, you'll be fine to visualize your data in a map. The next feature in the list is KPI consumption. We actually had this feature as a preview feature for the last few months. Now this month it becomes a GA supported feature, and along with that we have a couple of improvements, which include support for navigation hierarchies, as well as support for displaying KPI trends as part of your AES multidimensional models. Let's go and take a look at how this feature works. So we have an existing report that's connected live against Analysis Services Multidimensional. As you can see, as I dig down in the fields pane, you start seeing display folders as well. This is another new feature this month. And then when I dig into Grow Revenue, you see a KPI here. When I expand the KPI, you see that we can access the value, the goal, the status, and the trend. So let's go and build a table visual that has these values to show you what the KPI visualization looks like. So you can actually use the value. Let's also show the goal, the status, and the trend. So you can see how we have not just the actual values for the value and the goal, but also an indicator for the status, which could be red, yellow, or green, depending on the current status captured in the model, and also the trend. In this case, it's been stable. So that's a pretty important feature, something that we've had as a preview feature for a few months. And based on your feedback, we've actually made these improvements in this last update, and then graduate the feature to GA. So we encourage all of you to go start using it more broadly in your production scenarios and reports, and continue sending us feedback if you find anything that should be or could be improved in the feature. Let's go back into the list of new features. The next feature we kind of already covered is the support for display folders in the fields pane when you work in Analysis Services Exploration mode. So let's go into the next one. We've made a few improvements to the ribbon layout while you are working in the report view. We've actually split the single home tab in the ribbon within 2 tabs now. We have a new tab for contextual report tools that are contextual to the visualizations that you've selected in the report canvas. Let's go and take a look at how this feature works. We go back to our existing report here, and you notice that if I don't have any visuals selected, I only see the home tab and the modeling tab. You might be missing some options in the home tab that used to be there, like for instance, alignment options, editing interactions between visuals, bringing visuals forward or sending them backwards in your Z-axis. We've actually moved those features to this new report tools tab, which shows up as long as you select one or more visuals in the canvas. So now that I've selected one, you see this new visual tools format, and here you have all of the options that used to be in the home tab. The reason why we did this again was because we've been adding so many features to the report canvas and to the home tab in the ribbon that it actually became too many elements in the home tab that it was hard to visualize in some smaller monitors for some users. So we actually made this to optimize the layout a little bit and give you a more focused experience for actually formatting and interacting with your visualizations. Going back to the list, we also have a new visualization this month. It's a new visualization that's specialized for visualizing KPIs. So it's going to allow you to basically visualize the current KPI value and also the trend over time, and also be able to compare that with target values, which you can set either through a measure or based on a different field in your model. Let's go and take a look at how this new visualization for KPIs work. We're switching to a report that's basically, it's empty right now. It only has a few tables in the model. It has a table for sales. And within sales, I have a couple of interesting fields. I have units, I have revenue, and I also have targets. I have a desired target and a mean target. So you can find the new KPI visualization on the Visualizations tab. When you click it, it will get added to the canvas. So from here, I can now add the fields to the visualizations pane. So that, for instance, let's get something like the units, and we're going to use the units as the indicator. So we're basically going to be tracking the total units sold as our KPI. And then we also need to specify a trend axis so that we can measure how the KPI has been doing over time. So this is generally going to be a date field. We're going to use the date field over here. Actually, I picked the wrong date field. So I'm going to go into the date table, and I'm going to pick the date field from here. That looks better. So what you see right now is the current value for units sold. So it's units sold in the latest year in the series, which in this case is 2015. So that means we sold 233K units last year. And you can also see the trend. So it's actually been going down. But you'll notice how the color on the visual is actually gray. So why is this? This is basically the color that we're using to represent that right now this is the current value and the trend for the KPI, but it is neutral because we haven't really assigned the targets. So we don't really know if 233K units sold last year was good or was bad or was just average, because we haven't defined those targets. So for that, we can use the mean target and the desired target that I defined here. These are actually very simple measures that I defined just for the sake of the demo. So I defined the KPI, the desired target, as being 1.2 times the actual value of a KPI. And the mean target, it's just 0.8. So of course now if we drag the mean target to the target goals bucket, you're going to see it turn green because it's basically telling us that we are selling about 25% above the mean target that we were shooting for. So it's going to turn into green. It also shows a tick over here to display the fact that we are above our target. Now you could change this to be just the desired target. And so I remove the mean target and I add the desired one. And in this case, it actually shows you in red because it's of course telling us that we are underperforming. We've sold 16.67% less than we were expecting or that we were targeting for. Now you could also have a little bit more of an advanced case or more customized experience if you define multiple target goals. So if I drag the mean target to the target goals and then I drag the desired target, this is going to basically color code this with a third state, which is the yellow. Yellow means we are in between the lower target and the higher target, but we still didn't meet the higher target. So that we are kind of in that yellow area is a mild sentiment, if you will, for that KPI. Now, the other interesting thing that I can show you here, and it goes back to the feature that I just showed you with see data, is that we can go and see the actual data behind. In this case, it actually makes more sense to use the vertical view. And you can see what the data is being displayed in this KPI visual. We're displaying data since 1999 to 2015 with the total units sold by year, along with the minimum and desired targets for each year. And that's basically what's mapping to the values being displayed in the KPI visual. All right, so going back to the list of features, the next improvement this month is kind of a usability or kind of a shortcut improvement for people reopening their reports. We're basically making it such that if you create a report or you view a report and you look at a specific page that's not the first page, like let's say you go to page number 3 in your report, and then you close your report while you are in page number 3, the next time that you come back and you open that report again, it will go straight to page 3. This kind of a little usability improvement we heard from some people that they would like to customize that comeback experience. So now you have it, and we hope you enjoy it. The next item on the list is the ability to jump straight into the edit query option from within the fields pane. So basically, you're going to be able to select a specific table in the fields pane and say edit query, and that will bring you back to the query editor dialog and select that query for you. So let's take a look at how this feature works. We're going back to our report. So let's say that we would like to modify the order details table. I can click the ... or right click to get into the context menu. And from here, I have this new edit query option. When I click it, it will bring up the query editor, and it's going to show me this order details table. I actually had to renew my creds, so bear with me on that. I'm going to use my current and connect. So this actually lets me now get straight into the order details table, which is exactly the one that I wanted to modify since I was like coming from the report view. So no more need to go into the edit queries view and then find your table in the queries pane on the left. You can just jump straight to the one that matters to you at that time. The last new feature under report authoring this month is the ability to duplicate pages directly from the ribbon. Let's go and take a look at how this feature works. We used to have the option to duplicate page from the right-click menu on the page tab at the bottom of the screen. Now we've also added this under the new page option in the ribbon. It used to be new page as blank page. Now we've actually turned that into a split button that gives you either new page, blank page if you click on the top of the split button on the bottom. And then if you go into the drop down, you have this second option to duplicate the current page. And that will give you a duplicate just as you would do through the right-click menu. But we heard the feedback that it was much more efficient for people to do it from the new page menu. And it was kind of a nice addition and low-hanging fruit for us to go do. So here it is, more goodness coming to the ribbon this month. Going back to the list, we can now switch to the next category of improvements this month, which is improvements within the data modeling category. The first one is being also very commonly and frequently requested from many of you for the last several months, is the ability to define hierarchies using Power BI Desktop. How cool is that? Yes, it's really cool, and it actually opens up lots of new capabilities with Power BI Desktop so that you can create your custom hierarchies within the fields pane in the report view. And you're going to be able to also use these hierarchies in your visuals. So for instance, you could combine the power of hierarchies, custom hierarchies, with the ability to configure drill down and drill up behaviors in your visuals. And that's going to open up lots of new capabilities for you in your report browsing experiences. Let's go and take a look at how this feature works. I have a report here, and I'm going to go and make this visual a little bit smaller, move it to the side. So we're going to go and look at total sales by country, and then we're also actually going to expand that into a hierarchy so that we can look at sales by state and sales by city as well. We're going to dig into the orders table. This is the one in which I have my ship country, ship city, and also the ship address. So we can actually define here the hierarchy by right-clicking into a field, and we have this new hierarchy option. Once I click that with ship country, we're going to define the hierarchy. And it's empty for now, so I can, it only has ship country, which is the one I right-click on. So I can start adding new fields in here. I can go into ship city, right-click and say add to the ship country hierarchy. And then we can also right-click on ship address and add that to the same hierarchy. We can also rename the hierarchy because the default name is kind of ugly. It's just the original field dot hierarchy. So we can actually rename that to say location. And now we can create a new visual. Let's say we want to create a new column chart. And we can use total sales as the value, which I have up here in my order details table. And we can drag the location into the axis so that now we're looking at the hierarchy in our custom, we're looking at the custom hierarchy within our column chart. And you notice how it defaults to the top level of the hierarchy, ship country. We can actually remove fields from here if we wanted to skip one of the levels of the hierarchy for the navigation. In this case, I'm just going to keep them all, but you can see how now I could either drill all to the next level, so I'm going to see total sales by city across all countries, or if I go back up, I could enable drill down mode, and I could drill down to a specific country, like for instance, it's going to the USA, and then we can see the next level of details for sales by city in the USA. And we can even dig deeper and pick something like Portland, and we can see down to the street level, in this case, the final address for those customers within Portland. We're also planning to make additional enhancements to this hierarchy support over the next couple months, so stay tuned for that. The first one that we're actually planning to do is concatenate the names within the hierarchy levels. So for instance, in this level, I should be able to see USA/Seattle, USA/Portland. And likewise, when I drill into the next level, I should see USA, Portland, and then the actual address so that you keep notion of the context that you are within your hierarchy levels and the selections you made in previous levels. So more to come on that over the next couple months. We hope you enjoy the current set of capabilities for hierarchies. We know it's a huge milestone for us. It brings a lot of new capabilities to Power BI Desktop, and we're looking forward to your feedback and to continue making improvements over the next few months. Going back to the list, the next improvement this month is performance improvements. So you'll actually notice that as you rename tables and columns within the data view or the report view, those are actually going to be much faster. It used to take before a few seconds, and it used to do some reload and refresh operations for the data, for the metadata. Now it actually will happen straight, and you will not notice any lag in those renames. So again, another one of those things that we're working a lot incrementally with lots of performance improvements coming here and there across the product every month. The last group of improvements this month is around data connectivity, and we have a long list here, so we're going to go and talk about it for a little while. The first item is a new direct query support for Oracle and Teradata. As you know, we provided or enabled direct query support so that people could work directly against their remote data sources while interacting with their reports. We added this a few months ago for a few different data sources, including SQL Server, SQL Azure Data Warehouse, and also SAP HANA. We GA'd all of those capabilities about a month or two ago. Now this month we're also expanding to a few more data sources, which include Oracle and Teradata databases. The only thing to keep in mind though is that this is a preview feature for now, so you'll actually have to go and turn on this preview feature. Let's go and see where you can actually turn this on. You can go into the File menu, go into the Options dialog through Options and Settings, and within here under Global you have this Preview Features tab. You can come here to actually enable direct query for Oracle and Teradata. You also have Learn More as a place to go so that you can find more information about what this feature does. Basically, once you enable this, you'll be able to go connect to Oracle, for instance, and you'll be able to then specify the connection mode as you select data and then finally click Load. So pretty much just like it works for the other data sources like SQL Server and Azure and HANA that we used to support, but it's just adding this support for these two new data sources as well. The other enhancement that we're making this month for direct query is the ability to create calculated columns. Last month, we added the ability to create measures. This month, we are expanding that set of capabilities for direct query so that it also supports calculated columns. Again, another pretty important capability within direct query mode that we're enabling, and we'll continue making more and more improvements to direct query over the next few months, is one of our bigger areas of investment right now within the desktop. So stay tuned for more improvements coming on direct query soon. The next item on the list is the ability to, when you publish analysis services live reports, be able to select which gateway, which enterprise gateway you would like to use for this report to be able to hit the underlying or the on-prem analysis service model from PowerBI.com. So basically, the situation before this update was that once you connected or once you publish a report that connected to analysis services live, if you had only one enterprise gateway configured, it will just work. But if you had multiple enterprise gateways available to you, it would actually fail because it wouldn't know which one of those two or multiple gateways to use. So we're actually now adding a new dialog as part of the publish workflow so that you can select which gateway you would like to use for actually refreshing and connecting that report to the underlying analysis services model. The next feature this month is a new connector for JSON files. Let's go and take a look at this connector. So we used to have the ability to connect to JSON data through either the web connector or any of the from file options, and if you ended up picking a JSON file, we would be able to understand that file just fine. So what we're adding this month is not the capability to import JSON data, which was already there. It's been there for years, actually, but actually the discoverability of that entry point. So now when you go to get data, we have within file, we have a new entry point for JSON. So when you select that option, it will filter down to JSON, the JSON extension, .json extension, and then it will give you the ability to select that file and click open. So now what we're going to do is actually parse that employees file. It returns a list of records. So if we look at the original JSON file, it looked like this. It's a list of employees, a list of records with employee information. What we need to do now is actually convert this list into a table. And from here, you can actually expand these fields. And it gives me the first name and last name. And when I expand them, they just look like you would expect. So you have a table with two columns that maps to the data that was available in the JSON file. Again, this is available not just through the from file menu, but actually if you use a URL that connects to a JSON, to an endpoint that returns a JSON file or a JSON data, it would actually parse it the same way. So you can use this to connect to any REST APIs that return JSON data out there. Or if you have a local file, you could also do it through JSON file. The next feature this month is a new connector for SQL Sentry. We are very glad to be bringing this new connector. SQL Sentry allows you to actually monitor and share performance and operational data collected from your SQL server. And it actually includes things like server health information, server availability, disk, memory, CPU utilization. We shipped a few weeks ago the same connector for well, the content pack for SQL Sentry in the PowerBI.com as a content pack. And we also wanted to complement that with out-of-the-box connector, so you could actually create your SQL Sentry reports from scratch, combine them with any other data coming from any other data source that you connect to with Power BI Desktop, and bring lots and lots of new value to your users that can now monitor SQL Sentry data within Power BI Desktop reports and in PowerBI.com. So we're looking forward to your feedback about this connector. And of course, we'll continue bringing lots and lots of new connectors every month, so keep your feedback coming on that as well. The next feature this month, it's an enhancement to the CSV connector in Power BI Desktop so that it now supports JAG CSV files. Let's take a look at what we mean by that. I have the following CSV file here in Excel, where you notice that I have data for the first column. For the first row, I have 4 columns. Now for the second column, for the second row, I only have 3. The last column is empty. So it used to be before that if you try to import this data into Power BI Desktop, it will actually not know how to properly detect that this actually had 4 columns, and then the first row had only 3, so it would leave the last one blank. Now we've actually improved our detection logic, and this case is supported. So if we go back into Power BI Desktop and we add a new data, we add new data from CSV, we can pick the JAG CSV file. And now we're going to preview, and you see how it actually properly detects this table. So now we can say load, and it will just work for us. So a small improvement, optimization of CSV is one of the most popular connectors in Power BI Desktop, and we continue making improvements over time on it, so please keep your feedback coming. The next improvement this month is new auth or organizational account support for connecting to Exchange. Now you can use OAuth when you actually connect to Exchange, so you will see this when you connect through the Exchange connector and you're being prompted for credentials, that you have a second tab within the credentials dialog that would let you use OAuth connectivity, OAuth credentials type. The next improvement this month is also kind of a usability improvement for one of our existing connectors, which is the SharePoint list connector. We noticed that many people, when they try to connect to a SharePoint list, they actually provide the wrong URL. So there's basically two right choices. You could connect to the specific SharePoint list by using the OData connector if you have the actual URL straight to the list. Or if you wanted to use the SharePoint list connector, you need to provide the URL to the root of your SharePoint site. And that will basically detect all of the SharePoint lists within your site and let you pick the one you want to use. So now if you go into the SharePoint list dialog and you provide a URL that doesn't look like the root URL, we will actually give you an error message and tell you that you need to provide a better URL, and we will not let you click next or connect until you provide that right URL. So we're trying to avoid you extra steps in the flow to get down to something that's an error path. So we're trying to simplify that experience. The next new item this month, going back to the list, is a set of improvements to the database connectors. This actually allows you to disable navigational columns when you are connecting to databases. So basically, navigation columns are extremely useful when you try to either expand or aggregate fields from a related table in a database. So for instance, if you're looking at a customers table that has relationships to an order table, you could actually see these navigational columns in the customers table to orders, so that you could expand fields from the orders table. So for instance, you could get all the orders for every single customer and expand them into new rows in the customers table. Or you could even do aggregate operations. So for instance, you could go into this navigation column for orders, and you could do the sum of the total order price and things that would let you promote aggregated values from the order tables right from within the customers table. Now, that's a very useful capability, but it also comes at a price, which is there's a performance hit, and it actually will take longer to load your customers table if Power BI Desktop needs to analyze and detect and load these navigational columns for orders and maybe other tables like suppliers or employees or something like that. So what we actually did in this release is allow you to specify from the data source builder, from the data source dialog, an option to say, I would not like, or I would like to import these relationships or not. So let's go and take a look at how that works. Let's go and take a look at how this feature works in Power BI Desktop. So we're back into our existing reports. I'm going to go into Get Data, and I'm going to go into the Databases category, and I'll select Oracle. We've actually made this capability available for all of the databases within this list, except for SQL Server Database and Azure. That will be coming in a subsequent update, so stay tuned for that. So let's select, for instance, Oracle. Now within the data source dialog here, you can specify the server, and you also get this extra option to import relationships between tables. The default is checked, which matches the previous capability or the previous functionality before this update. Now if you uncheck this and you connect, you'll notice that there's a much lower, or it's much faster to actually load your list of tables as well as the previews for each specific table. Going back to the list, the next improvement this month is improvement to the credentials prompt when you connect to a web data source. that will allow you to specify the level at which you would like to apply the credentials or the privacy levels that you're being prompted for. So basically now you're going to be able to pick any level from within the hierarchy. It used to be the case before that you would only be able to pick either the domain level or the specific URL that you were connecting to. Now you get a drop-down where you can pick any level from the hierarchy. So that will help you better organize and manage the scopes for your credentials and privacy levels in Power BI Desktop. The next improvement this month is a set of enhancements to the Enter Data dialog. We shipped this feature back in December, the Enter Data dialog, and it was really popular. It allows users to either create a table manually or paste in some content from the clipboard. So this month we're improving that dialog so that it does things like, for instance, automatically detecting headers when you paste in data. Let's go and take a look. I'm going back to my existing report, and I'm going to click Enter Data, which is available from the Home tab in the ribbon. And I get to the Create Table dialog here. Let's make it a little bit smaller so it fits my screen. Now I'm going to go into Excel where I have a table. One of my favorite tables ever. This is fruits. So I'm going to copy this two-column table with fruit and quantity. You would expect that the first column should be detected as column headers because it clearly, because of the quantity column where all of the row values are numbers except for the first one, this clearly demonstrates or indicates that the first row here would actually be the column headers. So when we come back to create table, I can just do Control-V. Maybe if I did a Control-C before, that would work better. And now when you paste, it actually pastes it that way. In fact, I'm going to repeat it again because you would. I was already selecting the first table, sorry, the first row, so or the header row. So it actually thought that I was just knowing that. But if I come in without even selecting the column headers and I paste in, I'm going to get this warning on top that tells me that we've automatically promoted the first row to become the column headers. You could undo from here, but in this case, I'm good with that, so I can just click load at this point and get my my new table loaded. So a little usability improvement on top of this feature will make things simpler for you to work with when you create your tables through the Enter Data dialog. The next two features are actually enhancements to SAP HANA. We've enhanced the SAP HANA connector, which, as you know, became a GA-supported connector last month. This month, we're actually improving it in two different ways. The first one is that we're supporting single sign-on with Windows Authentication. Notice that this feature is actually only available within Power BI Desktop right now. So if you use this single sign-on, it's only within desktop. When you go configure your enterprise gateway for SAP HANA, you will not have this option available, but you can start using it now with Power BI Desktop. The second improvement this month for SAP HANA is supporting field labels. So if you have field labels, they will start showing up in your navigator if you go through import mode, or if you use direct query as well, and you'll be able to access them and see the actual field label values within this navigation experience. The next improvement this month, and we're getting now into the query transformation capabilities, is it's an enhancement to the existing Choose Columns dialog. It's a very common piece of feedback from many of you that you would like to customize the order of the columns that show up in this dialog. By default, we would show the natural order, which basically means the order in which those columns show up in your table. But many of you have expressed that it would be much more easy for you to use if this set of columns were sorted alphabetically. So we've added now an option so you could pick the sort mode. And let's go and take a look at how this looks like in the latest updates. We're going back to Power BI Desktop. We'll go into Edit Queries. And we select a table such like Customers. And from here, we can go into the Choose Columns dialog from within the ribbon. This dialog would let me pick which columns I would like to keep, and it would delete or remove all of the other columns from my table. By default, it sorts by natural order, which is the order in which it actually shows up in the table, as you can see. Now I have this sort by option at the bottom, where I can sort by name, and it changes the order of my columns here and sorts them alphabetically by column name. So now they're easier for you to find and identify which ones you would like to choose or discard. Sweet. The next improvement this month is improved performance for renaming, removing, and reordering columns. We've dramatically improved the performance of these operations. It used to be such that when you apply the rename or a remove of a column or reordering columns, you would actually see those queries refresh back to the data source to bring the latest data. But now we've improved that so that these three operations happen locally, so that there is no latency in getting ready for applying the next transformation for you. You don't have to wait after you rename columns or reorder them or remove columns. So that makes up for a much more interactive and user-friendly experience for you. And it will really and greatly improve the experience that you get when working with tables in the query editor. So we hope you enjoy that, and you'll see this capability for lower latency operations that are performed locally more and more for other operations over the next few months as well. So stay tuned for that. The next item on the list is virtualized preview. So this is kind of the technical name for it. What it really means is that actually we've improved our query editor preview capabilities so that you no longer have any limitations in the amount of data that can be displayed. It used to be that the query editor preview supported up to something around 3,000 cells. So it would either cap the number of columns or it would cap the number of rows that we display. Now we've completely changed that implementation so that we will load a certain amount of rows and columns, and as you scroll either down or towards the right of your table, we will bring in more columns and more rows so that you will never get to see this warning telling you that we couldn't display all of the data. So it will make much more easier for you to work with very wide tables. Generally, the scenarios that you have too many columns, that happens a lot when you connect to certain data stores where you have lots and lots of columns, and the first thing you do is narrow down the number of columns, but for that you actually like to see them. So having this feature in combination with choose columns that I just showed and the alphabetical sorting in that dialog makes up for a much better experience for you to subset the columns that you're seeing in your data set. The next feature this month is a visual indicator for unloaded queries in the query editor. So as you may already know, with Power BI Desktop, you can decide which queries you would like to use in the report and data views, and which queries you would like to not load because they're just intermediate queries and intermediate data that you actually do not need to use in the report and data views. You're just using those queries as a way to feed into other queries that are the final ones that you load. So you've always been able to disable load for these queries, but it was not very clearly indicated when a table was already disabled or not. So now we've improved that with a visual indicator in the queries pane. Let's go and take a look. We're going back to the query editor. So within here, I could unload the table by right-clicking and unchecking the enable load option. It warns me about data loss warning because I actually already have this table in the report. In fact, if I do this, I'm going to break, but for the sake of showing the feature, I'll just do it. So now you can see how tables that are not loaded actually show up in italics here in the queries pane. That's a better indication for you so that you can see at a glance which tables are loaded and which ones are not. I'll bring that back into the original state so that I don't break my report. And you can see how it's clearly different, looks clearly different when you are looking at a table that's unloaded versus loaded. And that's exactly what we wanted to achieve, so we hope you like that approach. The last feature this month is one of those one-click transforms, a new one that we've added. So as you know, we've been incrementally adding new one-click transformations, which basically we have one goal with it, which is allow you to perform common transformations and common tasks much more easily. Many of these transforms have been possible to do through either multiple steps or through actually authoring some formulas, custom formulas within the query editor. Now, based on your feedback, we continue adding more of these one-click transformations every month. So the one this month is a percentage transform, which would basically allow you to select a column within the query editor preview and specify a percentage to apply. So for instance, if you had something like unit price and you would like to calculate 10% of that, you're going to be able to do that just with the UI. You will not have to go into the custom column dialog and create a custom formula to calculate that percentage. Let's go and take a look at how this feature looks. We're going back into the query editor. We're going to go into the order details table. Or actually, let's go into order details. So here we have the unit price. And you see it's inserted percentage because I already did it and I forgot to remove it before the demo. But if I remove that column and I select unit price again, I can go into add column, go under standard, and select the last option, which is percentage. At that point, it will ask me the value that I should apply as the percentage. So if I say 10, it's going to calculate the 10% of the unit price column. If I click OK, you see now how it applied. So 14, 1.4, 9.8, 0.98, and so on and so forth. Again, one of those little transforms that will make things and it will make your life easier as you work with the query editor. We hope that you continue sending us feedback about transformations that you would like to see made easier, and use their usual channels. Use our user voice, send a smile, send a frown, the forums, and we'll continue adding this, not just for new transformations, but for any other feature that you would like to see in Power BI Desktop. So this is actually the end of the video. We hope that you enjoyed all of these features. As I pointed out earlier, this is a really, really hot release with lots of new capabilities. We hope you enjoyed. We hope you continue sending us feedback. You continue using Power BI Desktop every day, and together we'll make Power BI Desktop better going forward. So please stay tuned for future updates and stay in touch. Thank you.